Summer's ending, the office is calling, and cold weather is on the way. But why say goodbye to sunshine just yet? This October, escape to sunny San Diego for the 2025 ACEC Fall Conference. Learn from industry leaders, build powerful connections, spark big ideas under blue skies and palm trees. Early bird registration ends September 4th. Lock in your spot now at conference.acec.org. The ACEC Fall Conference, because business is better under the sun.
Welcome to Engineering Influence, the podcast, the American Council of Engineering Companies. And today we're joined by our good friends at BST Global to talk about something near and dear to our hearts, of course, increasingly so. That's technology, that's AI, that is how the AEC industry is actually responding to it and adapting. And BST recently released the findings of its AI and Data Insights 2025 Global AEC Industry Report. And we're here with Eileen Canady. She is the Chief Marketing Officer with BST Global, and to go over some of the findings. So Eileen, welcome back to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
So let's, for our audience, they're familiar, largely familiar with BST Global, especially with the work that you're doing with the ACEC Research Institute on technology, on AI, firm of the future, all these areas. Explain, kind of how you've been working with us as an organization, and then also, how you're approaching this. From the perspective of just, doing the research, trying to figure out where the industry is when it comes to AI and technology and how this study came about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Jeff. So honestly, we really wanted to get a clear sense of where AEC firms really are with AI and data. As we all know, there's been a lot of buzz, but we were really curious about what's actually happening inside firms. So what's working, where they're running into challenges, and how these technologies are really starting to shape the way they do business. So we set out to get a real world snapshot of what's working, what's holding firms back, and how AI and data are really changing the game in the AEC space. And we were fortunate enough to have ACEC partner with us on this firm, on this basically endeavor, and sending out and getting the respondents from ACEC firms. And so we also took the findings of the report, and we even segmented out ACEC findings and then all global findings to do a comparison there as well.
Yeah, and we have had Javier, of course, CEO of BST, on a couple of times, talking about AI, its impact on the industry. He's spoken to our groups at fall and conference and annual convention, and there's no question that firms are taking advantage of the technologies. What were some of the initial findings of exactly how firms across the industry are really maximizing AI and how they're implementing it into their, because really the technology is here, right? So at the beginning it was, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? Now it's a question of, it's here. How are we actually using it?
Great question, Jeff. So there is a lot of excitement. So we found that more than 80% of the respondents believe AI is going to reshape the industry. Most think it will happen really within the next 5 years. However, only 1 in 5 feel truly ready. So really that gap between belief and readiness really stood out to me. A lot of firms are still in the early stages, testing things out. One big takeaway is that firms are seeing success. The firms that are seeing success are the ones that are really linking AI to real business goals. And in turn, they're saving time, they're reducing errors, and they're winning more work. So it really comes down to being more strategic.
That's a really interesting point. And it goes down to the idea of really approaching AI methodically and integrating it into your strategic plan. right? And looking at how it's just not a tool that's going to be focused on one area. It's going to have to be really implemented across your business. How is there a breakdown between firm size and how that adoption is? Is there more readiness on the larger firm size with more resources, or is it more democratized across firm size?
Interestingly enough, it's pretty even across the industry. We found that firm size doesn't play a massively significant role. I mean, it really comes down to if you have leadership buy-in and if you incorporate that into your strategic plan. Those are the firms that are real future ready and focused and starting to see those results, regardless of the size of the firm.
So it really is a question of that. It has to be implemented at that core level, strategic level of a firm. So it has to be part of the strategic planning and not just segmented or siloed off into one business area.
That's exactly right. The firms that are have the leadership buy-in, that put it into their plan, that have clear measurable results that they're looking to achieve, those are the firms that are moving forward. Oftentimes, firms are saying they want it, but we found in a report that very few actually have that implemented, so it's hard to see results quite yet.
Yeah. So how were there any big changes between AEC firms in general and then ACEC members? Was there anything surprising there about how the breakdown kind of split out?
So when we broke down the firms, we noted that we noted that ACEC firms are definitely leaning in. They are 3 times more likely to be ahead of the curve on AI adoption compared to non-member firms.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow, that's 3 times. That's significant.
Yeah, so almost 90% of the ACEC firms say their AI will transform their business model, and most are planning to ramp up the investment within the next year, especially around client-facing solutions. So there was a significant difference. So not necessarily on firm size, but we did see a significant difference in ACEC firms.
Yeah, it's having that space to actually share the information and have the exposure to different experts on implementing the AI technologies. But that kind of goes into another question related to kind of like looking forward and seeing that, you have, the majority of firms, yes, they do want to implement that is going to transform the industry. Then you said 1 in 5 firms actually feels like they're ready to do it, right? But then you also have the kind of the breakdown of ACEC members being 3 times ready compared to their counterparts in the industry. So looking at what kind of, the firms need to really kind of reset, right? I mean, they're at a point right now where you have this big technological push. It's probably the biggest thing from going from the drafting table to computer-aided design, right? And what characteristics are going to set these firms apart, the future-ready firms versus the firms that are still kind of trailing? What have you seen both in this survey and your other work that really creates like the model firm? The firm that's going to succeed is going to have these characteristics versus firms that are going to be left behind.
Great question. So the firms that are really going to lead the way, they're really the ones that are treating AI like a serious business strategy. So what sets them apart is they're actually putting AI to work where it matters. They're using it to drive outcomes, save time, boost productivity. They're also putting the right safety nets in place, such as strong data governance, clear security protocols, and really a plan for how AI fits into the bigger picture. First and foremost, and just as important, they're making sure their people are ready. So they're giving employees basically room to learn, test, and get comfortable with AI. So it really becomes part of how the organization works. So these are the firms that the firms are they aren't tackling AI in a silo, which is what you mentioned earlier. They have leadership support. They're pulling in folks from across the business, finance, operations, marketing, delivery, so on and so forth, because they understand that success comes really from a team effort, and not just within a silo.
And to that point, I think it's something that I've spoken to Javier about in the past, and that's firm structure in leadership roles. Because to your point, the firms that are going to be successful are pulling across business sectors, but of course you need somebody to coordinate that. Did you ask questions in this survey, or have you done some research related to how many firms might have chief data security officers? How many firms have CIOs or people who are actually specifically focused on data governance, compliance, the actual work that goes into maintaining security and business operations with AI?
So surprisingly enough, Jeff, only about 15% of the firms surveyed have or plan to have a chief data or chief AI officer in their plan.
Yeah, and that's one thing which I'm interested in, because it seems like I wonder. It would be interesting to see how our industry is set compared to other industries related to leadership positions that are specifically focused on these things. Because all these questions related to, especially firms that are doing international work, firms that are doing work for government clients, it's all those safeguards that you mentioned, the security, making sure that you're working within a closed loop so you're not feeding models outside with proprietary information, and then also just how you're integrating. Because really, the success of AI is really going to be based off of how you're using the data that you own to train the model to reach your outcomes. Yeah, and it seems like you would need somebody to coordinate that.
That's exactly right. And the biggest disconnect that we really found is seeing is between vision and execution. And what you were just talking about is the execution. So we have a lot of leaderships basically saying the right things, such as AI is a top priority. But when you actually look closer and peel it back, it's really not backed by real investment to do the things that you were just saying. So there is still a disconnect in our industry. It would be interesting to see other industries. This report focused strictly on AEC firms only, but it would be interesting to see how other industries are facing the same challenges.
And I mean, largely outside of the scope of this survey and outside the scope of a lot of the work that we're doing, it's really focused on the implementation of technology. But outside in the political sphere, I mean, the current administration has made it clear that AI dominance is a major policy provision. And for an industry that is so integrated, so important and integrated into American success, infrastructure, building the data centers and doing all this work, there's a lot of opportunity here for the industry to really be a leader. And, everybody focuses on the tech industry and what X is doing or what Meta is doing. But at the end of the day, we have an opportunity to be a leader in this space.
We sure do. We sure do. And there's so many things that are moving so fast. And one of the big things is we talked about the strategy. Another huge component is talent. We found in the survey findings too that there's a gap there. So most firms understand that reskilling and upskilling is critical, but again, not many firms have it in place. So the intent there is really follow through on upskilling, reskilling, understanding that there are some basically new policies coming from the government, but it's super critical for the talent to become upskilled and reskilled fairly quickly, or you will be sadly left behind.
Yeah, and it seems like this is also going to influence that whole project the Institute's working on related to Firm of the Future, right? Because, yes, it is upskilling, it is retraining, but there's an entire class of employee that engineering firms in the past have not had that they're going to have to start investing in. And you're going to have entire new departments who aren't engineers, but they could be computer scientists, they could be AI prompt engineers, different kind of engineering, right? Who are doing this work in conjunction, hand in hand with the engineer. From your strategic standpoint, how do you see that workforce development really evolving over time?
I see a lot of upskilling and reskilling, but I also see a lot of the prompt engineers. If I'll give you an example. My son, when I was at his freshman year in orientation last year, the professor, one of the heads of the basically the department's computer science department, as a matter of fact, said there's going to be maybe 4 to 6 new degrees by the end of these 4 years developed. There will be prompt engineering all within the computer science. So it really is going to start at the universities, and there's going to be different degrees. And basically, because the needs in these organizations are going to change drastically, we're still going to need engineers, but we're also going to need prompt engineers. We're going to need computer scientists that meld basically the two areas together. And some of the seasoned professionals are going to be, need to learn and upskill. But the folks coming out of school are going to have this skill, basically that they're trained in. So I see a big shift in the types of employees. But again, I'm going to go back to we're always going to need engineers. We're always going to need architects. We're just going to need to enhance and then upskill.
That's a good signal to anybody out here listening who's looking at going into the university, right? Is if you want to be an engineer and you want to be a civil engineer, you want to be a structural engineer, absolutely. But think about a minor in computer science. Think about some additional skills that make you more marketable, because the firm of the future is going to require you to use a lot of these different systems, and if you can show value there, you're just improving your marketability. There's a lot here. I mean, so you have the results from the survey. What are you looking to do with those results? How is this going to inform some of the strategic thinking that BST Global is doing, and how you're assisting your clients either enter into this space or help refine their strategic approach to AI implementation?
Well, Jeff, we've basically been working within the AI space for 5-6+ years now, and basically we have the data scientists within our company, and we have developed an AI. Basically an application to allow for forward predictions within projects, so that we can forecast and predict project outcomes before they happen. So instead of looking in arrears, look in the rearview mirror, we're able to look forward and predict project outcomes based on some of the data that comes in. So we're basically learning and staying on top of the industry, working with basically AI and data consortium members. We have an AI summit every year, every 18 months now. We're going to have our next AI summit in November of 2026. And where we bring together thought leaderships. We bring together thought leaders from around the world, globally, from top engineering and architecture firms, to share best practices, to hear what they're doing. And so we can stay abreast of where the industry is going, what the needs are. We even brought clients in on our last event as well, to hear what the client needs are, because those are changing so rapidly as well. And so in addition to in addition to working within BST to develop solutions, for the industry. We're also having the AI Summit, which is where we're bringing the thought leaders in here, share best practices and network. And then we're also going to continue with the survey. So we're actually gearing up and develop our second round of the AI survey now. We'll collect the feedback basically this fall, winter, and then we're going to release our next report basically next spring as well, so that we have every year we can start benchmarking and seeing where the industry is going, where they're progressing, and maybe where there's still some needs.
That's really important. I think it's great that we now have research because we've gone from, a couple of years ago, seeing this looming storm cloud on the horizon and thinking, how are we going to approach this and what's it going to mean, to now actually having some good hard data on how the industry is actually responding to it, how they're taking advantage of it, and to start providing insights to firm leaders to say that, this is how we should embrace the technology. Because I don't think it's a question of embracing it or not. I think it's a question of using it to the best outcome for your business. There's so many rabbit holes to go down here because the predictive modeling, for example, that's significant because that goes down to that whole area of efficiencies, right? It's being able to actually take your data and say, we're entering into it. Here's the project that we're going to be doing. What's the predictive model of success? What things should we do? What things should we avoid to yield the best outcome? Tools like that are game changers.
That's right. It's game changing. Basically, you can see anomalies 30 days out, and you can change basically the outcome of your project by making the change now, knowing what potentially will happen in 30 days, and it will change the trajectory of your project. And so we're really excited about that. And it's something that basically it's never been able to, we haven't been able to do that before. Now that we have machine learning and we've run it through the models, we're able to do that. And firms are really able to gain some efficiency and revenue recognition, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to have an impact on the client side as well.
Yes.
Once they start realizing these models are being implemented, they're going to change to your point, they're going to change their expectations. And those timetables and schedules are going to alter because now they're being influenced by predictive modeling. They, on their end, are going to make decisions that are going to impact the project on the engineering side because they're probably going to be doing their own modeling and saying that, hey, we're going to be developing this large multi-million or possibly billion-dollar project. Mm-hmm. We're going to do our own models to create efficiencies and reduce costs. Yes. So the ripple effects here, if you think that it's just one thing about how do we use a model to create an RFP response, no, it's not that. It is going to have a ripple effect throughout the project delivery timetable and the entire way that engineers are approaching their businesses.
That's exactly right. And that's where I know ACEC has done a lot of research at the Research Institute on the lump sum study. I know Javier wrote the forward in that lump study, and I know that's a big conversation with the ACEC. And that is really where the industry needs to really head, because the hour-based, time-based is really scary, because you just sometimes the efficiencies are great, but it's really the value that you're creating. And what's scary too is sometimes the AI isn't perfected yet, and so sometimes the clients can go through and basically use some AI models and they may not, it could very well not be correct, and so you also have to have guidelines and standards, and it's scary what could happen if something isn't exactly right. So you have to be really careful as well.
Yeah. And that reinforces what we talked about with having those experts in place to validate and really pay attention, because my own personal experience, my wife's in the legal field, and you have situations where I think recently a judge, and I think it was a federal judge, actually tried to, his clerks wrote an opinion and used AI. It hallucinated case law. It just created case law out of whole cloth. Wow. And completely undermined a federal judge's decision. we talk about how this is going to change the world and how this is going to have a positive net impact, but we also have to be concerned about the opposite, which is the quality of the information coming out of the models and making sure that you can rely on the information.
That's exactly right. Great example of one of the many things that could go wrong. So while we're light years ahead, it goes back to there still, and I believe always will be, a human in the loop. The AI can get us so far. We need to prompt it correctly, and we have to come in after the fact and check and validate and make sure everything is accurate and correct, because a lot of things can go wrong with just one minor error.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of information here. I would really recommend anyone listening here, both ACEC members and not, because the study will definitely impact your business, is to check it out. Eileen, where can people go to learn more about the study, learn more about BST Global and the work that you're doing in the AI space?
Absolutely. So if you just go ahead and go to bstglobal.com, you can go into our thought leadership. Basically, you can see information on the AI Summit. You can see AI and data report right in there. The AI Consortium, you can read about that. And also our Trailblazers podcast. So bstglobal.com. For the report, they can just do /AI. You can look at AI and Data Insights Report 2025, but that'll lead you right there if you go to bstglobal.com. So.
Great. And you'll see some of those Trailblazer podcasts. We've been pushing those on social media. So if you go to the ACEC social media channels, you'll see some links to recent podcasts. And then also, one of the things that I talked to Daphne, who's of course the executive director of the Institute, and she mentions the BST Global AI Summit. You guys have some heavy hitters presenting at those events. So if you are a member, ACC member, or someone listening here and is really interested in attending one of those, I really highly recommend it, because the really good quality programming at those summits. So definitely check those out as well.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And just for awareness, we actually put all of our presentations online. So if anybody does want to see the sessions from the AI Summit in 2025 we just had in May, you can just go to bstglobal.com /AI Summit, and you can navigate to the AI Summit. You can see the keynotes, you can see the presentations, the panels. We have all of those online for viewers to check out if you have interest. It's basically full thought leadership, AEC firms only, really talking about where they are in the AI journey.
Fantastic. Eileen, thank you again for joining us for a great conversation on this. This is one of many. This isn't going away. It's just going to get more complex and technical as we fully mature AI, and a lot more ahead of us. So I really appreciate your time.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate our partnership with ACEC as well. So thank you again. It's been great.
Fantastic. And again, this has been Engineering Influence, a podcast from American Council of Engineering Companies, and we will see you next time.